Hello and welcome. This is Chapter 5, using the Feature Manager Design Tree. We're going to start from the book on page 5.9, skipping some of the templates, which will be shown in another video. Here we're going to do the saddle bracket design, and on page 5.10 you can see somewhat the order in which we will be attempting this part. Okay, so to begin, I'm going to open a new part, and I'm going to make sure that the units are IPS. And what we're going to do is we're going to create the base feature. Now hopefully at this point you know to sketch on the front plane and how to draw a simple picture such as the one on 512 and dimension it accordingly. I'm just going to do this very quickly here. Okay, so I've sketched out my rough shape. Now I'm going to start adding dimensions until the sketch is fully defined. Now you can see I've got some problems with some of these lines going beneath and losing their thing. What I can do at any point is click and drag that into a shape that is more close to what we're actually looking for. Additionally, I noticed that 0.5 is a dimension used a lot, and rather than having multiple dimensions, I'm just going to choose to use the equality relation. Again, I held Control, selecting all three, and I'm going to select equal. And now only a couple more relations to go. Alright, and there you have it. We have a fully defined sketch, which we will now extrude 2.5 inches. Doing a mid-plane extrusion. This will keep the center of it in, and again, just for end condition, we will do mid-plane. You can see how now the front plane is within the center of the part. Alright, so we've got our base extrusion. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add the second feature, and we are going to add the rounded end. Now, you've done this before, so we're just going to do a simple extrusion, and now we have to select the plane. Now one thing I'm going to do, clearly you can easily rotate it and select it there, but let's say for some reason that was too difficult for you. What you can do is you can right click and click select other, and you can see that the plane we were on disappears, and we can see all the things underneath it, and we can select that face from down there. Now that we've selected it, we're starting to sketch, and we're just going to get a circle, find the midpoint right there. You can see that yellow box changes. Go to the end, black, fully defined, and we're going to do a extrusion, other direction, and we're going to do up to surface, and it's this top surface. Just so you can see, it comes right up there. For now, always make sure merge result is selected. So next what we're going to do is we're going to rename these features. You can do this simply by double-clicking slowly. Slowly is the key word, and then typing in the new name. So I'm going to call that base. I'm going to call that circular end. Moving on, we're going to start using this feature tree, which is over here. So this is the name of our part. Right now you can see it's not saved. It's just called part 2, what it was opened as. We've got this sensors. You won't ever use this in this class. This would be for doing some things in the toolbox with analysis tools. These are annotations. You've got a material. We can edit the material as needed. Let's just pretend it's carbon steel. You can see what that will do is that'll change the look of it a little bit, and it'll also change the mass properties of it a little bit, but for now that's not terribly important, and as you can see it's very easy to change. Then we have these three planes. You have an origin, which is a symbol point. These are what's called reference geometry, these planes and points. We'll cover that later in the book. And now let's look at the meat of it, and we've got these two features. Now you can see as I click the plus, you can see the sketches that we drew to create them. And what we're going to do is we're going to modify this base. So to do that, I would like to see the dimensions that are going into it. So I'm going to right click in the annotations, and I'm going to show feature dimensions. Now you can see, well, that didn't do anything, but now let's click the space, and now we can see that all these dimensions have now popped up. Okay, we can see these are all the critical dimensions that we did in our sketch, and this blue one is the feature dimension itself, indicating how far it was extruded. So the book says we're going to modify the 3.25, and you can see I click it up and I can change it here, or I can just go over here and click 3 inches. I'm going to hit enter. Now you can see that this is now different, but it doesn't really look that much different. And you can see this little stoplight that has appeared. What the stoplight means is it means that this part has not been rebuilt. Rebuilt, basically, SOLIDWORKS goes through everything and makes sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be given the information you've given it. Sometimes when you go back and change informations, SOLIDWORKS doesn't immediately redo everything. It takes those changes and waits until the next time you rebuild it. To rebuild it, you can go up here and you can see this rebuild, Control B, and this little stop sign, and we can click this, and if you look carefully at the center of your screen, you can see that when I click this, our part will change. And you can see it just shortened itself by that 1/4 inch. The book says on your own, we're going to now change how far it was extruded. So again, we're going to select this, and we're going to go this 250, and we're just going to make it 2 inches. And again, check. Again, and just to be sure, I don't see the rebuild sign, but I didn't see it, so I'm just gonna, and now there you go. So even though that rebuild wasn't there, it still needed to be rebuilt. So whenever you do some modifications to things you've done in the past, it's always safe to hit rebuild before you carry on, and just to make sure they were done correctly. Okay, now these dimensions are getting annoying to me, so I'm going to go into annotations, right click, and uncheck show features dimensions. That way I can work without having to accidentally select them. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a hole. This again should be second nature to you at this point. I'm going to hover over this, grab the center, and dimension this hole. I believe it is 0.75 inches. And again, we're going to extruded cut this in the features, and we're going to do through all just to make sure it is a complete hole. Since we're in the business of naming it, we're just going to double click slowly and name this feature hole. And now we're going to create the last feature, and we're going to do an extruded cut. It's just going to be so again, I selected this face for the sketch, and I'm going to do a rectangle, 2-point rectangle. And we're going to do a little bit of dimensions. We can see it's 0.5 from this. We can see it's 0.75 down. And we can see it is 1 inch long. Exit that sketch. And we're going to cut up to next. Now we can see that that is not what we originally wanted. Now we're going to show you, I'm going to show you another way of modifying your parts. Now you already know that what you can do is you can show feature dimensions, and you can click this, but what you see is there is no distance dimension like there is down here, this 2 inch, and that's because we didn't extrude it a distance. We extruded it up to the next surface. So in order to change this, and again I'm just going to unshow feature dimensions before I work, just to make it a little bit less confusing visually. So what we can do is we can right click this cut extrude number 2, and we can edit the feature. And now, as opposed to selecting up to next, let's try through all. And we can see that that's what we wanted. Now, this applies to all these others. I can always go in and edit the feature. Maybe we didn't select mid-plane, maybe we did blind. And what you'll see is everything else follows that. You can see now our front planes are not in the same spot. But I'm going to go back, and I'm going to put it back to mid-plane. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to do a design change. Now, the book has us put in a little fillet down here and has that as our major design change. That's a little silly, and I'm going to show you why. I'm going to make that fillet without going back into this first sketch one and modifying the sketch. I'm going to show you how easy it is. But first, I'm just going to name this rectangle cut. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how easy it would be to do that fillet. I'm going to go and make sure I have the Features tab selected. I'm going to click this Fillet tool. And I can see that we want to put a 0.25 radius fillet there. So I'm going to set the items to 0.25. And now I'm going to select which line we want to fillet. And we're just going to select this. And we're just going to select OK. And you can see, boom, that gives us a fillet that we want. And now this is its own feature. So if we ever wanted to adjust the size of this fillet, or perhaps add other, possibly a fillet in there, or a fillet in there, it would be very easy for us to do. I suggest, the book goes through and has you edit the sketch and use the sketch fillet, which is right here. I don't suggest using that. I find that feature-based filleting is much more reliable and less prone to bugs and producing undesired results. But the book, in changing that point to a fillet via the sketch, it is going through a process that is worthwhile. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to modify that sketch. I'd like you to do so as you follow along with me. So we're going to go into Sketch 1. You can see if we click the plus next to base, we can right-click Sketch and click Edit Sketch. And this brings us back. Now it sort of shows us a preview of what we've done. And again, you can see we're editing the sketch. And I'm just going to look at this front plane, that way we can see it nice and simply. And I'm going to do my best to ignore all this yellow stuff until after we finish the sketch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this line, and I'm just going to replace it with a line that comes out and a line that comes over. Now this is blue, and even though all I'm doing is trying to illustrate a tool for you to use, I will never leave a sketch blue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click these, I'm going to make them equal, and then I'm going to click from there to there. It's going to be 0.25 inches. And now it's still blue. Not sure why it's blue, so what we're going to do is we're going to modify it. I can see that right there and there, this line is not, the length is not defined. So I'm going to make sure that this point and this point, again, holding control and selecting the points, are vertical with each other. Now this you can see now, in dragging it around, this dimension has been altered a little bit. So I'm just going to delete this dimension and reapply it in the plane that I would like it to be in. Whoops. Did it again. Sometimes when you're dealing with lines and you're doing the Smart Dimension wants to align it in a way that you're not happy with. But, if it does that, just keep trying. Generally, it'll behave itself eventually. So we have a fully black sketch. We're going to exit the sketch, and we're going to see what happened. So now you can see it has modified our design somewhat intensively. We can see now this extruded cut, which was based off of it, has now going through it, and maybe, perhaps that's not what we wanted. Perhaps we wanted it to look a little bit different. And, depending on the fundamental nature of your modification, will depend on how much subsequent features you'll have to change. But if this is what we wanted, then you can see how easy it is to fundamentally change our part. All you have to do is edit that base sketch. That's going to be it for Chapter 5. I hope this was useful. Some of the techniques that I've showed you are useful when you try to make a part, something goes wrong, to avoid having to restart from scratch.